As the captivating paintings showcase the breathtaking beauty of Mount Fuji, the scene is accompanied by the poignant monologue of an unknown woman. She lovingly reminisces about her long-cherished dream of visiting Japan with her beloved husband, a trip they plan to witness the enchanting cherry blossoms adorning the majestic mountain. The thought of experiencing this together fills her heart with joy and anticipation. However, the tone of her recollection shifts subtly as she reveals the harsh reality that now confronts them. Her husband, the one with whom she hoped to fulfill this dream, is now gravely ill, and the medical prognosis is disheartening, indicating his limited time left on Earth. Facing this devastating news, the doctor suggests they embark on a journey somewhere special, a way to create cherished memories in the time they have left. But the woman knows all too well that her husband, Rudy, is not fond of adventures or traveling, preferring the comfort of familiar routines. Despite this, she can't help but hold on to the glimmer of hope that they might still make their dream come true. She paints a vivid picture of Rudy's daily routine, catching the train punctually at 7:28 in the morning, where he exchanges newspapers with a fellow passenger. She recalls how he worked diligently at the passport office, but lately he has been grappling with the weight of his illness, which has disrupted the rhythm of his life. Even though Rudy has always been conscious of his health and well-being, the shadow of mortality now looms over him, and it's a reality they must both confront. Amidst the beauty of the paintings showcasing Mount Fuji's splendor, the woman's monologue poignantly captures the dichotomy of dreams and reality, love and loss, and the fleeting nature of life's precious moments. As the unknown woman's heartfelt narrative continues, we are drawn deeper into the emotional journey she and Rudy must navigate, seeking hope amidst the uncertainty that lies ahead. In their tranquil and sparsely populated village, Trudy lovingly tends to Rudy, demonstrating unwavering devotion. However, the weight of worry and concern begins to take a toll on her. Her once healthy appetite wanes, and activities she once cherished no longer captivate her interest. Despite Rudy's nonchalant demeanor, Trudy can't shake the unease surrounding his well-being. Desiring the solace of her son Carl's presence, Trudy attempts to reach out to him in Japan, eager to share her concerns about Rudy's health. Yet, amidst the hectic nature of life, Carl's response eludes her, leaving her to navigate the emotional turmoil on her own. In an effort to create meaningful memories together, Trudy proposes a journey within Germany, hoping to rekindle the joy they once shared. Emotions run high as they prepare for the trip, and tears well up in Trudy's eyes. Nevertheless, with a touch of determination, she persuades Rudy to join her on the adventure. Their hearts heavy with the unspoken truth, they embark on a train bound for Berlin. Amidst the landscape rolling by, Trudy carries the burden of knowing her husband's fate, a burden she keeps hidden from him. The journey becomes a poignant testament to the enduring bond between Trudy and Rudy, even as uncertainty looms in the background. At the bustling train station, Rudy and Trudy are reunited with their son, Klaus, leading to an immediate clash as Rudy chides Klaus for being late. Klaus, now married to Emma and a father of two, Robert and children, appears preoccupied, with his children engrossed in their Game Boys. As they catch up, the topic shifts to their other son, Carl, whom Trudy wishes to visit, all the while keeping Rudy's illness hidden. Soon another family member arrives, and the atmosphere seems somewhat strained as the reunion interrupts their busy lives. Nevertheless, they decide to make the most of their time together, opting for a fun-filled day of sausages and a barbecue, reminiscing about old times and creating new memories. As the day unfolds, Emma suggests exploring the city, and the daughter persuades Trudy to attend a captivating dance performance. Trudy's storytelling skills enchant the children, and the family gathers for a heartwarming group photo, capturing a moment that might be their last. As they cherish moments with their grandkids, Rudy finds joy in being a loving grandfather, creating precious memories for the little ones. However, the pleasant atmosphere takes a slight turn when Klaus suddenly remembers an important meeting scheduled for the next day, conflicting with his promise to accompany his parents around. This prompts a discussion about whether Rudy and Trudy have become a burden to their children, raising feelings of guilt and frustration. During the conversation, Carolyn, the daughter, bravely opens up about feeling overshadowed by her brother Carl, whom she believes is the favored child. Her partner shares her sentiments, and this revelation adds a layer of complexity to the family dynamics. In the morning, as the house is hushed with the promise of a new day, Trudy expresses her worries about feeling disconnected from their children. She reflects on how they all seem absorbed in their own lives, leaving her longing for the close-knit bond they once shared. Despite these concerns, Rudy remains content knowing that their children are doing well in their own ways, even if the intricacies of family relationships pose challenges. In bustling Berlin, Carolyn discusses her aging mother and reminisces about their parents' memories. She wonders how to entertain Rudy and Trudy during their visit, and asks her partner for ideas. Back at their home, Rudy and Trudy spend time with the kids until Carolyn's girlfriend, Francie, arrives to give them a tour of their first apartment. Trudy enjoys some quiet time sightseeing by the river. Later, they visit Carolyn's house for tea and cake. The situation becomes tense when Trudy inquires about Carl, causing Carolyn to react angrily and feel offended. Rudy and Trudy decide to leave, but Carolyn feels apologetic for her behavior, and they all eventually reconcile. As the elderly couple ventures into the bustling S-Bahn system, they encounter challenges with navigating the ticketing booth to purchase their tickets. Rudy, feeling flustered, becomes frustrated with the kiosk's complexity, while Trudy maintains her composure, patiently trying to figure it out. Despite the initial difficulty, they eventually manage to secure their tickets, thanks to Trudy's persistence and level-headedness. As they continue their exploration of Berlin's vibrant cityscape, Rudy can't help but feel a twinge of sadness, perceiving a sense of unwelcomeness amidst their children's busy lives. The reality of their adult children's packed schedules dampens Rudy's spirits, and he begins to wonder if their presence is burdening them. In an attempt to bring some joy to their visit, Trudy suggests the idea of going to the seashore, specifically the beautiful Baltic coast. She lovingly asks Rudy if he would like to go, fully aware of his initial reluctance. Rudy, in a moment of selflessness, chooses to follow Trudy's lead and agrees to the trip, understanding the importance of cherishing these moments together as a couple. They eventually return to Klaus's home to rest for the night, but Trudy can't sleep, so she goes out instead. A Japanese dance performance is recommended by their kids, as Rudy is a fan of dancing. As Rudy waits outside, bothered by the graffiti, the performance unfolds. Trudy and Franzi watch the Budo performance, where there's only one performer captivating the audience. Later, the elderly couple goes to the beach, and Rudy sweetly warms Trudy's heart as he mentions wanting his ashes scattered into the ocean. Trudy, however, can't help but feel worried about the limited time they have left. She asks Rudy what he would like to do, but Rudy remains positive, believing they still have plenty of time together. In the beach house, Rudy struggles to sleep due to the awful sounds. Trudy, on the other hand, dances like a loony, dragging Rudy into the dance with her. Eventually, their movements transform into a ballet performance, with Trudy leading the way and Rudy following his wife's lead. They dance intimately, and Trudy's kiss is filled with worry, sadness, and longing. As they walk hand in hand along the shore, Trudy asks about their children. Rudy simply replies that he is happy and doesn't mind the estrangement from their kids. This brings guilt and early grieving for Trudy, which she keeps hidden from Rudy. Trudy continues to suffer from sleepless nights, envisioning dramatic performances. Another day passes along the beach, and Rudy seems to have slept well. However, in the morning, Trudy appears lifeless and cannot be awakened. Rudy becomes increasingly worried as he realizes she has passed away in her sleep, likely from the constant worry about his impending demise. The children, Carolyn and Klaus, come to pick up Trudy, and Carl, who flew in from Tokyo, mourns the loss of his mother. Trudy is brought back to their hometown, and Carl, the seemingly favorite child, is filled with regret for not being able to see his mother again, despite his parents' pleas to return to Germany. Now, the family has to figure out how to take care of their elderly dad. They gather by the shore, grieving Trudy's passing. They fondly recall childhood memories with her, but are taken aback when Rudy makes rude comments about how devoted Trudy was to him and the kids. He leaves the table, and Carolyn wonders why Trudy passed first, instead of Rudy. The family tries to return to their lives while carrying the weight of grief. Rudy regrets not being nicer to Trudy when she was alive, and the children comfort him, asking how he will go on from now. Rudy breaks down emotionally, crying in his grief. Back home, Rudy is alone, carrying his bag and Trudy's. He is now faced with darkness due to his illness, and he finds himself doing things his wife would usually take care of, like wearing her jacket or giving inside slippers. The loneliness and grief are overwhelming. The next morning, Trudy's ashes are buried, but only Franzi is present. None of the children attend. Franzi dines with Rudy, and he thanks her for her kindness to his late wife in Berlin. However, Franzi reveals that Trudy had dreams of going to Japan to see a real performance, something Rudy had consistently denied her. Later, Rudy looks through a series of photos of Trudy, discovering images of her in extreme Metallica makeup and doing interpretative dance. Rudy admits that he didn't like it and made her stop. Franzi points out that Trudy seemed happy with it, and Rudy embraces Franzi like she is his daughter too. In the quiet solitude of their room, adorned with cherished photos of Mount Fuji, Rudy finds himself engulfed in a sense of loneliness. As he goes through Trudy's belongings, he discovers a side of her he hadn't fully grasped before, her fascination with Japan and its captivating culture. In his hands, he tenderly holds Trudy's kimono, a poignant reminder of her dreams and aspirations. Lying on the bed, he lovingly places the kimono beside him, imagining the warmth of her presence, as if they were still holding hands like they always did. In these moments of solitude, Rudy finds comfort in the memories they shared, but also an overwhelming desire to honor Trudy's unfulfilled dream of visiting Japan. After days of deep contemplation, Rudy's heart becomes resolute in making a life-changing decision. With newfound courage, he carefully packs his bags, fueled by the determination to embark on an adventure that will not only be his, but also a tribute to his beloved Trudy. In this transformative moment, Rudy resolves to board a plane bound for Japan, determined to step foot in the land that fascinated Trudy so much. Rudy waits anxiously for Carl, worried that his son might not show up. Thankfully, Carl arrives and picks up Rudy, taking him to experience the different cultures of Japan. Rudy brings goodies from Germany, which Trudy sent him when she was alive, but Carl is preoccupied with work, and has to leave Rudy alone again to navigate around his apartment. Rudy feels lonely once more, reminiscing about another movie where he felt similarly isolated in Japan. While exploring, Rudy comes across the postcards Trudy sent to Carl, and the memories bring tears to his eyes. As promised, Carl takes him out for dinner, and during the meal, Carl asks why they never visited him. Rudy expresses regret, admitting he thought they had more time, and now wishes he had fulfilled Trudy's request to see their son. Rudy brings Trudy's personal belongings with him, and arranges her clothes and belongings as if she were still there before going to sleep. The next day, Carl takes him to a roof cafe bar, and instructs him to wait there. Rudy orders lots of beer and spends the day looking at the building where Carl works, feeling like a child waiting for his parents. Impatient, he wanders through rowdy streets where young people gather. Rudy ties a handkerchief around a fence, possibly belonging to Trudy. He continues to roam around, feeling lost, and follows a Japanese person to a girls' bar and club, where the performances are lewd. Completely disoriented, he walks through busy streets and even ventures into the red light district, where he is bathed by Japanese women. During the bath, Rudy suddenly breaks down in tears when asked if he is married. Rudy ends up sleeping outside Carl's building, clutching Trudy's scarf. Carl is annoyed but relieved to find him there. To prevent this from happening again, Carl provides Rudy with a placard for when he gets lost, a book with pictures to help him understand the language, and a phone. The next day, Rudy spends his time alone, aimlessly flipping through TV channels, until he stumbles upon a Budo dance performance, instantly reminded of Trudy's fondness for such art. Missing her deeply, he decides to embrace her memory by dressing up in her cardigan and pearls, seeking solace in the familiar scent and feel of her clothes. As Rudy immerses himself in memories of Trudy, Carl, his son, returns home. Eager to be helpful, Carl takes the opportunity to teach his father how to use a cell phone, and inquires about his well-being. Rudy opens up about his grief and reminisces about Trudy, but Carl, attempting to comfort him, suggests not dwelling too much on their loss. However, Rudy abruptly stops Carl, not wanting to hear any words of comfort or advice. Despite the emotional tension, Rudy and Carl decide to spend time together, going on a hanami, a traditional sakura viewing. Joined by a few other Germans, the atmosphere becomes lively, but Carl's behavior betrays signs of intoxication as he starts acting foolishly. They eventually return home, and although Carl appears jovial in his drunken state, the mood takes a dramatic turn. Under the influence of alcohol, Carl begins to share his feelings candidly, dropping a truth bomb about their family dynamic. He reminisces about growing up with Rudy as their father and reveals that Trudy, their mother, had always given Rudy leeway for everything because of his busy job. He expresses his resentment towards Rudy, accusing him of never truly knowing their mother and relying on her to take care of them all their lives. The truth bombs continue to fly, and Carl's insults and hurtful words pierce through the air, revealing deep-seated frustrations and unresolved issues within their relationship. Rudy is taken aback by the harsh revelation, grappling with the weight of Carl's accusations and feeling the pain of the unspoken emotions that have lingered for so long. The next morning, Rudy tends to Carl, who is filled with regret and moodiness after the previous night's emotional outburst. Rudy, ever the one to share wisdom, recites his favorite quote, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away," although he himself finds that it hasn't proven true in his own situation. Undeterred by his own health challenges, Rudy strives to make the most of the day by being productive. He takes it upon himself to clean up Carl's apartment, sorting out the garbage for recycling, just as he taught his children to do when they were young. However, it seems that this valuable lesson may not have been fully absorbed by his kids. Outside, Rudy lovingly wraps Trudy's scarf around the bicycle stop, a small but heartfelt gesture that serves as a symbol of her presence and their enduring love. As he sets out to explore Japan during the blossoming spring season, with sakura flowers adorning the landscapes, he finds comfort in carrying a piece of Trudy with him. Taking a step further to honor Trudy's love for Japan, Rudy dresses in her cardigan and skirt underneath his coat, a poignant way of connecting with her spirit and showing her the beauty of Japan, which she longed to experience. Carl returns home, curious about how Rudy spent his entire day. Rudy casually responds, saying that he showed Trudy around, a subtle reference to keeping her memory alive in his heart. Concerned about his father's well-being, Carl arranges a sightseeing tour for Rudy, hoping to engage him in something enjoyable. Rudy expresses his desire to visit Mount Fuji, and they embark on a journey, with Rudy still clad in Trudy's clothes, as if showing her the sights of Japan. Along the ferry ride and river, he exudes warmth and receives hugs from strangers, spreading a sense of joy wherever he goes. Despite the weariness settling in, he remains determined to cherish every moment. In a picturesque park, Rudy stumbles upon a Budo dance performance by a woman named Yu, which captivates him with its emotive beauty. The art form, so beloved by Trudy, brings a sense of connection and happiness to Rudy's heart. Back at Carl's home, Rudy unintentionally overhears Carl discussing his frustration with his father, feeling overwhelmed and unsure of how to manage his busy schedule and care for Rudy at the same time. As Rudy reveals his presence, a moment of vulnerability surfaces, and he humbly asks Carl if he could stay with him for just a little while. Carl, though perhaps pretending to be nonchalant, agrees to his father's request, and embraces him in a hug, expressing a subtle tenderness and concern for his well-being. In the park, Rudy encounters the mesmerizing performer, Yu, once again, dressed in white and performing an extreme budo dance. Intrigued, he strikes up a conversation with her, and to his surprise, Yu speaks English. Curious about the art of budo dance, Rudy asks Yu to explain its essence, and she gladly agrees, describing it as a shadow dance, a unique form of expression that bridges the gap between the living and the spirit world. Despite initially feeling hesitant to join in, Rudy listens intently as Yu elaborates on how budo dance allows one to dance with both the departed and the living, with the shadow representing the presence of those who are seemingly gone, but still linger in our hearts. Yu shares her own poignant reason for dancing with the pink phone. She recently lost her mother. With patience and understanding, Yu takes Rudy under her wing, teaching him the delicate art of budo dance as a means to embrace his own shadow and connect with Trudy's memory. In a tender moment, Rudy unveils his coat to reveal Trudy's clothes underneath, feeling a touch of embarrassment. However, Yu remains non-judgmental, showing genuine compassion for his emotional journey. As they bond over their shared experiences, Rudy and Yu introduce themselves and seemingly decide to embark on a unique journey together. Yu assists Rudy in boarding a train, waving him goodbye as he starts to embrace his newfound independence. He surprises himself by shopping for groceries and cooking a meal for Carl, who is taken aback by the sudden shift in his father's behavior. It reminds Carl of Trudy, who had always taken care of such tasks. During breakfast, emotions come to the surface as Carl breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by missing his mother. He expresses regret for moving away, as he wanted to gain independence, but now he yearns for the comfort of her presence. In this heartfelt moment, Rudy tries his best to comfort his son, offering support and understanding, bridging the gap between them as they navigate the complexities of grief and longing for the one they both hold dear. Rudy goes to Yu and gives her cabbage rolls, which his wife usually made. He fondly talks about Trudy, and Yu compliments Rudy on his cooking skills. Then Rudy requests the type of dance where they roll over the picnic mat, each at the end until they meet halfway, making them look like two cabbage rolls. After the dance, Yu washes off her white makeup, and as they go home separately, Rudy is content with the time they spent together. While cleaning Carl's apartment, Rudy gracefully follows the dance Yu taught him, but his knees are getting weaker. He takes up medicine, but it doesn't seem to be working. Later, he goes to the same river where Yu performs, but he is late and appears weak. They use swan-pedaled boats to go around and see the sights together. During their time together, Rudy shows Yu his home in Germany, and it fills him with memories of Trudy, such as their shared fondness for wildcats and memories of other places they visited. In return, Yu shares that her mother liked ducks and shows him pictures. One day, Rudy paints his face again and changes up his appearance, performing the telephone dance with Yu, where he gets wrapped up by the whole wire. Despite his weak knees, he doesn't let it stop him from following Yu to her real home after they go home separately. Yu arrives at her home, but to Rudy's surprise, it's just a tent filled with trash, revealing that she is homeless. Seeing Yu's situation, Rudy brings her to Carl's apartment to shower. However, Carl is not happy that Rudy brought Yu to his home, fearing it might cause trouble. After showering, Yu gets out and leaves the father and son without permission, making her way back to her tent. Rudy, on the other hand, bids farewell to Carl, but not without touching his hand as a gesture of saying goodbye. He then decides to stay at the bench, patiently waiting for Yu to return. The next morning, Yu wakes up and is surprised to find Rudy sleeping on the bench. He approaches her with a bag containing Trudy's clothes, expressing his desire to go on a trip. He warmly asks Yu to come along with them. On the train, they enjoy Japanese snacks like onigiri and bento, with Yu introducing various sweets and snacks to Rudy. Surprisingly, Rudy knows how to use chopsticks, impressing Yu. She mentions that Mount Fuji is often shrouded in mist, and sometimes doesn't want to be seen. Upon arriving at the prefecture where Mount Fuji should be visible, they ask local residents about the best viewing spots. However, when they head to a nearby lake, the majestic mountain remains hidden from sight. Rudy is still not accustomed to some Japanese customs, like taking off shoes and wearing slippers indoors, or using futons instead of beds. To help him adapt, Yu guides him through the process of wearing a yukata and introduces him to Japanese cuisine, onsen, and the laid-back way of life in the countryside. She believes that immersing oneself in these experiences is the best way to enjoy and appreciate Japanese life. Despite their efforts, the elusive Mount Fuji is still nowhere to be seen, adding a sense of mystery and adventure to their trip. They sleep through the night, but unfortunately, the thick clouds persist, and the mountain remains concealed. They decide to spend another day at the onsen hotel, indulging in delicious food, hoping that the clouds will eventually clear and reveal Mount Fuji's beauty. However, Rudy's health takes a turn for the worse, displaying symptoms of the undisclosed disease he has been struggling with. Concerned for Rudy's well-being, Yu takes care of him. But Rudy remains determined to see Mount Fuji as he wishes to show it to his deceased wife. Despite his frailty, Rudy wakes up in the middle of the night, and inspired by Trudy's appearance before her passing, he uses Yu's white makeup and kohl eyeliner to recreate her look. He even wears Trudy's kimono, resembling her as she was when she was alive. Early in the morning, Rudy is amazed to see Mount Fuji revealed in all its grandeur. Filled with a sense of purpose, he follows the mountain's direction and heads to the nearby river. There, he starts to dance, envisioning himself dancing with Trudy, this time with him following behind her. It's as if he's fulfilling Trudy's dream of being in Japan, witnessing Mount Fuji, and performing Budo, a dance form she longed to experience. Overwhelmed by the emotional and physical exertion, Rudy collapses alone after the poignant dance. The moment becomes a bittersweet tribute to his late wife and her unfulfilled desires, all set against the backdrop of the elusive Mount Fuji. Yu wakes up extremely worried, frantically searching for Rudy, only to find him already deceased. She gathers Rudy's belongings, including his coat and hat, most of which belong to Trudy. To her surprise, Rudy leaves a substantial amount of euros to Yu. Carl takes responsibility for arranging Rudy's cremation in Japan. At the small Japanese funeral, only Carl and Yu are present as they solemnly place his remains into the urn. The process is emotional, and even Carl, who was initially skeptical about Yu's presence in Rudy's life, is visibly moved while collecting his father's remains. In the cab ride back, Yu and Carl share the journey together. Carl expresses his gratitude to Yu for being there for Rudy, and Yu assures him that Rudy is now at peace and happy. She shares a picture book of spring rolls with Carl, explaining that the 2 spring rolls in the book symbolize Rudy's parents being together again in spirit. Eventually, they part ways, with Yu carrying all she has in a carriage, and Carl holding the urn containing his father's remains. Despite the sorrow, there's a sense of closure and connection between Yu and Carl as they navigate through this difficult time together. They all return to their hometown in Bavaria to lay Rudy to rest alongside Trudy. The siblings and Franzi gather together in their house for a meal, but they can't believe the circumstances surrounding Rudy's passing. They still struggle to comprehend Rudy's profound loneliness after Trudy's passing, and the journey he undertook to find solace. Meanwhile, Yu remains in Japan, continuing her performances of Budo. During one of her acts, she uses the pink telephone as a prop, with another phone hanging on a tree, symbolizing communication with the departed loved ones from another realm. The majestic angles of Mount Fuji are showcased everywhere, post-credits, highlighting its stunning magnificence. The story comes full circle, with both Rudy and Yu finding ways to honor their lost loved ones and cope with their grief. While Rudy found peace in Japan, Yu carries on the legacy of their connection through her powerful and emotive Budo performances. The enduring presence of Mount Fuji in the visuals emphasizes the spiritual significance of the journey taken by both characters.